This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A warm welcome to all our viewers. We are currently looking at a young male leopard lying down in the shade, not too far away from us. You can see very relaxed, like earlier on he was up in this tree, and as he came down, there was a few hyenas that chased him off, and you can see currently he's just lifted his head and almost staring down towards the tree line at the back to see if there's any other hyenas. But jump on board on this live safari here in the African bush. It's just such a beautiful afternoon, and you'll notice that if you look at the different colors, I mean, the shade where that leopard is lying down is quite deep colors, so it tells us that it's still a nice warm part of the day. The sun is quite high, and because of that, this leopard is just resting up a little bit until it starts cooling down, and from there on, he most likely is going to start moving. Now, we are, as we mentioned earlier, we're here at and Beyond Ngala, so I'm Nikki, going to be your ranger for this afternoon, and with me on the camera is Owen. Now, this leopard that we are currently, as we mentioned, looking at, or that we're looking at, so there's a big tree just on the back from where he's lying down. So he had a kill up in that tree for the last few days. So see in the background, there's a big tree with a massive canopy. The one in front is a marula tree, and the one just at the back is a Natal mahogany, and that's where he had a kill over the last few days.
Good afternoon and welcome to Djuma. We've just gotten live on our safari and we are full of excitement for what the afternoon is going to bring. My name is David Hancock. On camera we have Craig and we are going to be seeing what the bush has in store for us. So far we've seen some lovely plains game, a couple in Yala, some kudu, and we stopped here to admire this beautiful male giraffe. It's lovely dark patterns, browsing away merrily there on those branches. And don't forget, we would love to hear from you. Any questions and comments you may have. #WildEarth. And kids, sending your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Giraffe has got such beautiful coloration. I love the dark skin. TaylorMade, you've asked, do we get different species of giraffe in South Africa? As I answer your question, I'm just going to reverse a little bit so that we can get another look at him. TaylorMade in South Africa, only this species. There are subspecies. I think there are 7 in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. All similar, just with a few different slight characteristic differences in coloration and skull. Well, he is hiding. The TaylorMade in South Africa, only the one species. And what a beautiful boy he is. Lovely start to the afternoon.
Welcome to and Beyond Pinner Private Game Reserve. My name is Dewald and we are looking at some zebras here on the floodplain in the southern parts of the reserve. And we've actually got some plain zebras with us at the moment. And we actually have quite a few different species of zebras in southern Africa, but these ones are plain zebras. And you can see there's actually 3 of them here in front of us. And I was having a look through the binoculars earlier, and by looking between the back legs there, we can see that there's actually 2 mares and 1 stallion. And it looks like, if we look at the front legs of the one that's standing in the back there, he looks like he's quite sturdy, and I think that might be the stallion in the back there. Quite interesting that he actually has the thicker lines compared to the other 2 as well, and it just shows you the uniqueness of between them all. Because look at the nice shadow lines in between the thicker lines of the one here in front, and then the one there in the back, the stallion, has those thick black ones without almost any shadow lines at all. And you can see they're not really doing anything. I think with this heat that we have at the moment, it's a nice warm day, I think they are just relaxing for now. Daniel, they sure do. They probably have the same build as ponies as well, but these are some ponies with some beautiful stripes. And there's actually if you have a look to the left hand side, further to the left, there's actually 2 that's grooming each other at the moment. Look at that, that's quite interesting behavior. And if I quickly look through by my binoculars right now, it does look like a mare on the left hand side and a stallion on the right. And I wonder if that grooming is building up the relationship between these 2. And interesting that they are standing a little bit further away from these that's here close to us, and it's probably because that stallion has his own little harem. But I think we are going to just stick around here for a little bit, and then I'm gonna see if we can pick up some tracks of some lines this afternoon, and we'll keep on going.
From 2 stallions to a massive askari of giant elephant bulls having a drink on this nice hot winter's afternoon. Gorgeous scenes here at Eco-Training's Pridelands Conservancy. I am Mike, and behind the camera is Seb, and as I said, you're joining us here at Eco-Training's Pridelands Conservancy at Ndlovu Dam, which means elephant in Shangaan. And as you can see, it's living up to its name with this incredible view of elephant bulls, including the very big bull that's underneath the tree there that you can see. That elephant is known as Kumo, and Kumo used to have a collar. He lost his collar a while back, but we still can recognize him. Butterfly is asked if elephants lose weight as they get older. Butterfly, it's actually the opposite. As long as an elephant has teeth in its mouth, it will get bigger and bigger and heavier as it grows. As you can see, Kumo walking off on the left there is a massive elephant bull. And he's probably in his 40s, although I will be able to find that information out more definitively. But certainly as long as it can eat, it will get bigger and bigger. Once an elephant's teeth start to get damaged, then they can't feed as much anymore, and they might lose condition, and they might start to get a little bit lighter. Look how Kumo is using his weight to tell the other elephants, okay, listen, you need to move out of my way. I am the biggest around here. And that's how it works. The bigger and stronger an elephant is, the higher up in the hierarchy it is, the rankings in elephant bulls. So he's pretty much the biggest and strongest bull around. He gets to do whatever he likes to do. And these other young bulls will probably follow him over the course of their life and learn from him, get bigger and stronger themselves, and take over from him one day. As you can see, some of these young elephant bulls wanting to go and have a bit of a swim in the dam. It is a nice warm afternoon after all, and this one's just taking the opportunity now in the deeper water to get some of that cleaner drinkable water. The water around the edges is quite dirty, and elephants are rather fussy creatures when it comes to drinking water, and they will do their best to get the cleanest water. Sometimes even swishling, I don't know if that's a word, but tapping at the water to try and get rid of any bugs and things that are at the surface before they have a drink. Oh, it looks a bit slippery there. Are you going to be able to get out there? Good luck, old buddy.
Okay, welcome back to our regular audience. We're in an ad break right now, just taking a break from the SABC, and you're just still watching the elephant bulls here having a bit of a play at the edge of the water. Now they look like they're heading towards the area where they normally have a bit of a dust bath. So hopefully they'll go and do a bit of dusting, which is amazing. It's really fun to watch, especially with the light of the setting sun behind them. The sun's not setting just yet, but it is quite low in the horizon. We're in the winter now, so the sun doesn't rise as high in the sky. Right. I'm going to be holding off speaking for a moment whilst we come out of an ad break. We're still with that askari of elephant bulls. That's a word we use to describe a group of males that all walk together. And they're still here at Ndlovu Dam, slowly drinking and moving their way to the mud patch, which looks like they might go and have a nice big mud wallow. As you can see them splashing their way through the shallows. It's easier for them to walk through the water than through the muddy bank, as you can see. Oh, you see the feet sliding there. They've got a big a pad there which helps them when they walk on the hard earth to be softer, but it makes it a little slippery when they walk on this mud. You have to engage a bit of low range there to get up that little incline. But they're heading straight towards the mud wallow, which is going to be amazing to watch. It's incredible when they mud wallow. Krishna, you've asked if elephants can stay or go underwater, and they absolutely can. That long nose, that trunk that they have, acts like a snorkel or a straw that they breathe through. So where they can actually go completely underwater and cross this whole dam. When it's very full, the dam is deeper than an elephant, and you just see the tops of their trunks sticking out as they breathe. And they certainly can do that. It's difficult for the young elephants to go through such a deep water hole. Oh, look at Kumo there, the big elephant bull. He's kicking mud all around. But yes, they can move in the water, and these ones do all the time.
So talking about elephants and water, just look at what this leopard is doing at the moment. Have you noticed how it's picking up its tail, turning its backside towards that bush there? And it was really hard to see, but I was wondering if he was scent marking. So he's still a very young male, and I mean, for him, doing that is playing with fire, especially with a more dominant male that could potentially be within this area. But just look at the way that he is moving up the road. How beautiful are those colors. Just even look at that white tip at the end of the tail. Whenever he moves and stops, you might just see him moving it from left to right. But almost like those elephants that do enjoy the water. Now, this leopard, what we're thinking, might be on his way to go and have a drink. So I'm just going to slowly move forward. Harrier leopard is pretty strong. To give you an idea, this leopard, just in terms of overall strength, would probably be able to lift something his weight into the tree. So if you look at him, what would you estimate his weight? I think maybe probably be safe to say he's around 45, maybe 50 kilograms. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. But he'll be able to pull up something his weight into a tree. So that's pretty strong for a cat. And pound for pound, I mean, in this area, leopards are extremely strong. I wonder if eventually you won't just find a nice little spot to go and settle down. Janet, I'm sure a leopard, especially if it's moving in a pretty warm part of the day and it has to constantly chase something in the heat of the day, they could overheat. So it's not strange to find a leopard, especially this time of the day and earlier on in the afternoon, just to be lying down either on the branch or maybe in the shade just to cool down before they start moving. But for now, look at him moving. Let's try and see if we can just stick behind him so we don't lose him. And as I said, so right in front of us here, we have that beautiful Timbavachi River. And some of the areas the elephants have dug for a bit of water. I won't be surprised if he's eventually heading down into that direction to go find a bit of water to drink. There's a beautiful tree here. Now, one of my absolute favorite things would be as if he decides to go and lie down on one of those branches, but I don't think that's his mission. His mission is to keep on moving. But if you notice, as he's moving, he's constantly going past these trees, picking up his tail, scent marking, and then slowly moving on.
Good afternoon from a beautiful day at Tswalu Kalahari. It is so good to be out here, and it is so good to be that you can join us on this. And my name's Dylan. If any of you haven't met me yet, it is great having you along. And yeah, I have no particular plan for this afternoon as usual, but I just really wanted to show you this gorgeous little clump of trees that I'm in. It's not a particularly big cluster, and it's not a particularly tall group of trees, but what is really interesting is the fact that they are clustered together like this. And one of the thought or the ideas here about these little tree clumps is that it's actually formed from either a seed pod, an individual seed pod that's been deposited here, but more likely it's actually from the gut of an animal. So some herbivore that was feeding on camel thorn seed pods a long time ago and defecated here, and they started germinating. JC has asked, are there any medicinal plants or bushes around this area? Yes, there are. There are lots and lots and lots, and the early inhabitants have used medicinal plants here for tens of thousands of years, and we'll go into that at some point as well, but particularly more towards the mountains, and I'll show you some of those. They are quite interesting. But like I say, these little tree clumps are incredibly important, and as not just for the clump itself, but what you find is that they actually form a nursery for a whole lot of other species underneath it. So you get all these other little things growing over here. Okay, they get shelter from these big things. There's a lot of protection from herbivores, but more importantly is you find that the herbivory and the pressure, whether it's like animals feeding on it, frost, fire, things like that, are more likely to have, or they will have a higher impact on these trees on the fringes of these clumps. What that means is it actually gives the trees in the middle time to start getting up and get going. So what you tend to find is when these trees are younger, these clumps are denser, and as there's more and more environmental pressures on the outside, so the ones on the outside start getting whittled away, but the whole time those ones in the middle are just going up and up, kind of like the beanstalk in a Roald Dahl story. So yeah, so that's quite interesting. So there's a whole lot of ecological facets surrounding these tree clumps that are quite important.
It's very interesting that you're talking about medicinal plants, because elephants are also well known to consume a lot of medicinal plants, and so their dung is often used to get certain benefits. I know certainly by burning it you can keep a lot of bugs away from your home or your camp. In fact, if you just get a little smouldering elephant dung, the smoke tends to keep stuff away. But look at these two elephants having a little bit of socializing, pushing each other a little bit, just often putting their trunks in the mouth of the other one. And that's a way they can maybe get a little bit of information. They, like other mammals, have special pits in the top of their mouth that are called the organ of Jacobson, and they can get lots of information from that. Taylor, you've asked a very interesting question that I get asked all the time. How is it that an elephant can be so quiet when they're so large? Well, Taylor, one reason why they're mostly quiet in terms of their vocalizing, the sounds they make, is that they communicate in infrasound, which is very low sounds that we can hardly hear with our ears. We can only hear sounds in a certain frequency, so they're actually communicating much lower than we can hear. So that's why they don't make too much noise. They can make loud screaming and stuff. And the reason why they walk so quietly is because they've got soft, fleshy, padded feet that spread out and cover the cracks in the ground and smother the leaves and twigs. So even when they walk, as you can see this when they look how his feet spread out as they step down, It's hard on the bottom, it's tough, but there's a fatty, fleshy pad that makes them very quiet when they walk. It's actually incredible. Sometimes you're walking through the bush and an elephant that weighs 6 tons, 6,000 kilograms, you walk right upon it and you didn't even hear it moving about in the trees or along the game paths because they're so quiet. I once had a whole herd moving through a tree, a little small forest, and I lost them because I didn't know where they were. I was trying to follow them on foot and I couldn't find them because they moved so quickly and so quietly. But they're amazing animals. Sassy Kathy, you've asked how thick an elephant hide is. Quite thick, not as thick as a rhino's skin, which can be up to, I think, 5 inches? I'll have to double check it. I'm going to have to look up that information. But I think an elephant's skin at its thickest can be a couple of centimeters in its thickness, which is thick enough that even when an elephant dies, most animals can't actually consume them until hyenas come along and rip the hide open. Hyenas are the only animals that can actually get through that. So it's very thick, but I'll find out, if we're still with these elephants just now, I'll find out the exact amount of thickness. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now you can see the elephants on their knees, actually trying to get their tusks in there in the dirt, cover their bodies. It's very difficult. I haven't seen Kumo go down onto his knees or get down. He's a very big elephant, as you can see. He towers above the others. And so when he's going down onto his knees, it's very difficult for him to get up. So he won't want to do that. He'll wait until he can go into the water and it's deep enough, and that's when he'll do most of his wallowing. I suspect. I mean, he might go and completely challenge me and go underwater or lying on his side. So we're going to come back out onto the SAB show now out of the ad break. So I'm just going to hold off speaking for a moment. Oh, hi, another elephant. All right, so we're still with these elephants, and I remember Sassy Kathy asked me how thick is an elephant's skin. So I quickly made sure I was correct. So I knew a rhino's skin was about 5 inches, and an elephant's skin is about half that. So anywhere between 2 and 4 centimeters thick. So that's not particularly thick when you consider how massive an elephant is. And that's probably why they do a lot of this mud wallowing, keeping their skin protected from the sun and also from biting insects. They probably have a lot more biting insects than a lot of large animals, just because their skin is relatively thin. And yeah, they also have to be delicate with each other. You'll often see them poking each other with their tusks, but they'll never be too rough with each other because it's just, they know that they're quite sensitive. Only time they ever really hurt each other is when they're fighting over females. That'll be the only time they really cause each other harm, and that's why they might do that. But yeah, this is just lovely.
We've just stopped here to have a quick look at some rhino tracks, and right next to these tracks is the midden of a white rhino. One of the most interesting rhino features you find out here in the bush. It's basically a big bunch of poo, but what's interesting about it is that this is basically rhino Facebook out here. So a dominant bull will come here, he'll defecate, he'll push up this mound with his back feet, do his thing, get the scent of his dung on him, and then he'll walk off. As he urinates, he stands in his own dung, he'll drag his feet like this and carry on walking. Any other rhino in this area will come and smell this and immediately smell, oh, there's a territorial bull here. Females, subordinate bulls, other dominant bulls, and that'll tell them exactly what's going on here. Females can also use these middens as their own personal toilet, but they'll do it normally a little bit on the side, and that tells the male, the dominant male in the area, if there is a female on heat. So basically, like I was saying, rhino communication, rhino Tinder if you like. Jackie, you've asked what a rhino's feet are like. Are they similar to elephant? Well, they are similar in appearance, I guess, from the outside. They're nice and grey and they've got their flat, cracked skulls, but an elephant foot, it's not skulls, sorry, soles. Elephant foot is a lot rounder, so if I had to draw it on the sand for you, an elephant footprint is more like an oblong circle going this way, directional arrow, whereas a rhino has a much different three-toed track. So the rhino toes are very significant, very noticeable in its track. This is the back of the foot, left toe, right toe in front. Elephant, a lot more round, but they do have those almost like fingerprints on the bottom of their feet that define them, the cracked soles of the foot. So similar, but also got their differences. But this stuff, if you were a person living out here and living off the land in the bush like they used to do in the old days, would be a brilliant compost. It's basically just digested grass. It smells exactly like grass, like I suppose what your compost heap at home would smell like if you have one. Remember, a white rhino only eats grass, and that's all that's in here. Of course, if you're stuck out here camping and you need to start a little fire to keep warm, get some dry stuff like this, and there you go, it's a good kindling. Very cool. One of the very interesting parts of the bush, these rhino middens. A good starting point if you want to track a rhino. Come to a midden, see how fresh it is. You'll immediately see if there's been any activity in the area. But this one, not so fresh. Probably used about 2 days ago. Rosalind, you've asked how big are rhino? Well, they are like tanks. They are really big. They probably stand about here. A white rhino is quite a lot bigger than a black. Good couple tons. And basically tanks. So when you're walking in the bush and you hear crashing branches and you see a rhino coming towards you, you want to jump out the way because that thing will run you flat. It'll run right over trees this size. They're basically like giant tanks. Very, very cool.
I can't agree more with David. I think that's probably one of the best things to do is to get out of the way. But talking about getting out of the way, so earlier on this male leopard decided to move all the way along down the road, and eventually he found this little patch of soft sand amongst the grass here and decided to come and lie down. Now it might be that he could decide to lie down here for the next half an hour, maybe even longer before he carries on, or there's a good chance that maybe a couple of minutes from now he'll eventually get up and start moving. Now, as we mentioned, it is a pretty warm part of the day. In saying that, though, it doesn't mean that leopards won't move in this particular time. However, the chances are less likely for them to move great distances. Rather at night, when it's a lot cooler, they'll tend to move a bit more. But with this young male, I definitely, like I always love to just have a look and describe the colors of the animal. And if you look at the different colors here, I mean, if we zoom in a little bit closer, you'll notice that around the belly there's this little wash of white, and then all these rosettes on the back, bit of a white tip at the end of the tail, and beautiful. It's just a beautiful pattern, a bit of a golden streak between his shoulder blades, all the way between his ears. Now, Pam, with leopards, they are mainly solitary animals, so you often find them just by themselves. Sometimes you might find more than one. That's often female with the youngsters, or possibly when leopards are mating, that you could find that happening.
Black-backed jackal, the farmer's favorite in South Africa, certainly. This is kind of the ecological equivalent of a coyote in the States, or a dingo maybe in Australia, or a dhole in India. I'm going to reverse back a fraction. Oh no, he's actually coming out. He's coming out. He's coming out. He's going to come out past this bush. Just give us a second. There, 1, 2, 3. There he goes. So this little guy's actually up and going quite early. So I wonder if he's not onto a scent or something. He's watching us. This has got to be one of my all-time favorite animals. They are so wily and so sharp. These guys do not miss a thing. And I wasn't even tongue-in-cheek about being the farmer's favorite animal in South Africa. They are renowned stock raiders in many areas. Not all over, but particularly on small livestock. So they haven't exactly ingratiated themselves to farmers. But there is fantastic evidence that the more you leave them alone, the better they control their own populations.
Look at this. We had a question about whether an elephant can go completely under the water, and yes. This elephant heard, and ask, and you shall receive. There it goes. Only a bum. There's an elephant bum. This is the porpoises of Pride Lands. Look at this thing. Lesejo, you've asked a very good question. How many liters of water can an elephant consume? About 200 liters a day they can drink. If they are very thirsty and very big elephants, about 200 liters. But, normally if they're a bit smaller, let's say probably about 100 liters is normal. About 10 liters can fit up in the trunk at a time. So they'll just suck up the water into their trunk and then spray it out into their mouth at 10 liters at a time. It's amazing, all these young elephants playing in the water, and the large bull kumos just watching them, a fatherly figure, just making sure no one hurts themselves. Oh, never mind, maybe he's going to come and get involved. He's such an awesome elephant. He's got such a good temperament. He's so calm and composed at all times. So it's awesome to see this elephant just swimming like this. I mean, we were talking the other day about elephants being playful, animals being playful, and there's no reason other than pure enjoyment for this elephant to be rolling around in the water and turning itself on its back and doing little porpoise dives. It's kind of crazy behavior. It must be just fun, right? I mean, you walk around all day, your heavy body, your heels are getting sore, and now you're just letting your hair down, or your ears down, or your trunk down, I suppose, if you're an elephant. Look at it, splashing the water. There's no reason for it to do that. That's just purely having a great time. So this elephant is probably... and he's gone. What is he doing? He's literally living its best life ever. And it does not care. it does not care at all what the others think. We're going to hold off speaking for a moment as we go into an ad break, or come out of an ad break, sorry. Still swimming, still having the best time of its life, just literally living it up in the waterhole. All the other elephants are slowly moving off, but this one says, nope, I'm not done yet. I'm having a tantrum, or I'm having the best time. I can't leave just yet. It's just literally, so it's probably sitting right now on its knee. Oh no, never mind, it's not sitting anymore. Now it's diving. There's an elephant bum again. Look at this. Consciousness, this elephant is almost certainly sitting down on its back legs when it's got its head up like that. Well, right now, I don't even know what it's doing. It's waving at us with its ear. It thinks it's a seal, I think. This elephant is right now doing a headstand, but they can sit down on their back legs, but only in water. It's not comfortable for them to sit down at all. Even lying down, it's not that comfortable for a big elephant if they're not on a very, very soft ground. Oh, the elephants are now doing a dust bathe, which is super cool. You see, the elephants have had a swim, they've got mud on themselves, and now they're literally throwing dust all over their bodies to try and soak up some of that water and to sort of coat their body in a layer of dusty mud that they'll then go and rub on a tree or a branch or a big log or a rock in order to loosen some of the parasites from their skin. Isn't this amazing? We're seeing literally a whole elephant pampering session happening right in front of us. So don't forget, please, this is awesome, and we'd love to hear all of your questions if you have any. So if there are any kids watching, please send your questions to kidssquestions@wildearth.tv. And everyone else, please hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. We'd love to hear your questions. We love them. They keep us on our toes. And they keep the animals being interesting for us when they do stuff that is opposite to what we end up telling you. Oh, Kumo's going in. He can't resist it. The child in him is telling him he has to go and play also. This is amazing. It's the first time I've seen Kumo, this massive elephant bull, in the water playing. I hope he's going to play. I'm watching him now, and now he feels self-conscious. He thinks he's got an image to uphold. He can't be seen just playing games. It's okay. Go for it. Feel free. Feel safe. You can play. Amazing. That's literally the elephant sitting on its back legs right now. The one that's deep in the water. That would literally be sitting down on its back legs. We just talked about whether they can, and there you go. It's doing it. So we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to stay here and watch these elephants and see what else they get up to.
So this species is one of the firm favorites for people that visit these arid and semi-arid environments in southern Africa. The oryx, many of you'll know it as a gemsbok or a gemsbok, if I get the pronunciation correct there. And they are incredibly well adapted for surviving in the harshest environments. We were actually watching them drink water the other day, a little herd of them coming down to drink at one of the dams, but they don't need to. They are got incredible tolerance for high temperatures and very, very arid areas. They get most of their water, well, pretty much all their water requirements from the plants that they eat, and they'll actually dig out plants. You'll see them pawing the ground sometimes until they get to roots and tubers, and there's this beautiful fruit. I don't have an example with me at the moment, but it's this big green round, looks like a small watermelon, called a summer melon. They'll actually eat those as well for moisture in the dry season.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are just doing a quick stop at the hyena den because the cubs are out, but sadly there's no adults, which means we can't stay here any longer, I'm afraid. My name is Lauren. I do have Theo on camera. It's a really, really hot afternoon. We'll give you last second look at this very, very cute hyena cub of the Juma clan. and then it's time for us to go, I'm afraid. We've just arrived hoping that an adult would be present. And just wanted to explain the reason for that. We don't stay with the cubs when there's no adults. We can come here, we can check, the cub's fairly relaxed. Bye-bye. But sadly, it causes the wrong sort of habituation process, which is exactly why we don't stay here when there's no adults around. Sad news, but I'm going to keep bumbling, head to a waterhole, see what I can find.
So now you get a chance to see just how deep that water is. So these elephants are now standing, and Kumo is an exceptionally tall elephant, and he's, almost up to his tusks in the water. And if I was to stand up next to him, that's probably about as tall as me. So that's almost 2 meters tall. Amazing. See, he's just got the tip of his trunk up. That's how he breathes, okay? So he's breathing through his trunk, down into his nasal cavity, and then into his lungs. Now he's got his trunk under, he can't breathe. Okay, so when he lifts his trunk up, that's when he's breathing. So he's using it like a straw, like a snorkel. So this is amazing. We talked all about this before, and now we're actually seeing it. I love it when animals cooperate and they do the things that they are supposed to do. It's awesome. You can see they're just having a play, rubbing against each other. Elephant trunks are so amazing. I totally agree with you. Elephant trunks are brilliant things. They can do so many functions. Debbie, yes, I agree. Totally cool. I can't stop looking at them. I don't even know what to say. It's just cool watching them do these things. So now Kumo's having a bit of a drink in the water there, these two. So Kumo's much bigger than that one. And we talked about it, I think it was earlier today or maybe yesterday. I can't remember. We've so many elephants around here, but we talked about mounting behaviors and how young elephant bulls sometimes mount each other as a sort of dominance display. But Kumo is very big. He probably weighs close to 5 tons, maybe even more. And so if he was to mount a female and he was inexperienced, it would hurt her if he was trying to mate with her. So often you'll see young bulls climbing on each other's backs, and they're not trying to mate with each other. They're purely practicing, using the water as a way of making their bodies lighter so that they can actually mount and practice that movement. Mating doesn't usually take place in water, though. Most of the time it happens on land. JK, how does a elephant prevent water getting into its ears? Well, it doesn't really prevent water getting its ears, to be honest. Their ears are just like ours, just much, much larger. So the ear holes are actually on the front of those big flapping ears, not behind them, like some people seem to think. So the holes in the elephant's ears are in front, and they can't close them. They're not like aquatic animals like hippos and other ones, which can actually flap their ears down and relatively close them. Elephants, they stay open. So I've no doubt that it can happen that maybe dirt gets in the elephant's ear and it's very uncomfortable. We sometimes see them using their trunks to reach into their ear to try and scratch around in there. So that's when they've probably gotten some leaves or dirt in their ear. It's quite uncomfortable. I wonder if this elephant's going to go and dust bathe like the rest. There's a very dusty section there. You can see even as it walks how much dust is flying up. It's very dusty there because they've all been dust bathing there for a long time.
So going from a young male leopard to which looked like a youngish male giraffe. Now, how we know that, and I'd love to ask the viewers as well if you can see why is it a male giraffe, just by looking at the head. Now, some of the features and some of the tips we can use is, like, if you look at the very top of the horns, have you noticed that there's a little bit of a sheen, it looks like the horns are shining at the very top. Now, often the males, when they start growing and becoming more dominant, they'll have this behavior called necking, where they cross their necks and they hit each other with their heads. So the very tip of their horns start to go a bit bald. But look at what he's doing now. See, he's chewing something, but he's not literally chewing on a branch or a leaf or anything like that. It's because what he's doing, like a cow that has a 4-chamber stomach, so does this giraffe. So all the food that it's been eating throughout the day is really hard to digest and break down. So he's bringing it up again into his mouth, re-chewing it, and from there swallowing it again. See, he just swallowed. Let's give it some time and bring it back into his mouth like that. And just look at how that cheek is quite swollen. It must be quite a bit of food that he brings up into his mouth to rechew. So there's another giraffe just off to the right. So the one we saw earlier was a lot lighter in color, but this one here, you'll notice it's slightly darker. Now I know it's the angle of the sun as well, but you'll notice between its ears, especially around the horns, like along the neck, a lot darker in color. And even, have you noticed this one's also not feeding, but also just regurgitating everything into its mouth, chewing it again and swallowing it.
It's such a perfect hot sunny day on Djuma Game Reserve that even the reptiles are enjoying it. We have a water monitor lizard here, sunbathing. I promise you it's real. We have water monitor lizards here and rock monitor lizards. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you all, but the water monitor lizards spend their time around water, believe it or not. And that's why we commonly see them around the water bodies. But both the rock and the water are ferocious predators with voracious appetites. They really, really eat. Oh, you see that? Put his tongue out. And just like a snake, the forked tongue comes out to taste the air, tasting the chemicals in the air. And when they bring their tongue back in, there's a special organ on the roof of the mouth that processes that, analyzes that, and sends the message to the brain. What is it that you're tasting? Pheromones, hormones, any sort of chemical cue that's in the air that humans are completely oblivious to, that's actually what it's doing. They mainly use looking at us. They mainly use their tongue to smell out prey. Oh, I wish I was this monitor lizard today. So other than this lizard, there's not much at this water body, so we're going to bumble on to the next one.
Well, we've just stumbled upon this beautiful waterbuck bull. Talking about pheromones and hormones, waterbuck are one of the antelope that emit a very powerful and pungent smell. It's a funky, funny smell. You can actually smell it if the wind is blowing in our direction. I'm not entirely sure the purpose. I know that they are quite scent related when it comes to territories, but all the waterbuck have it, even the females and the bachelors who don't yet have territories, just home ranges. I think it may have something to do with the fact that they like going in water, perhaps a bit of waterproofing on their skin, that goaty, cheesy smell that they give off. Such dashing appearance in their face. And those beautiful ribbed horns. Look at those horns. Large and fierce and sharp. These waterbuck often have terrifying duels when it comes to territories. A male like this may have another intruding male who wishes to take his territory from him, and then they'll clash horns and stab at each other. And often, it's not uncommon to see fatal wounds inflicted by waterbuck males as they joust for the right to a territory. Those horns are so sharp they can penetrate and puncture organs. So no joke out here, maintaining a territory. Joel, you've asked, are waterbuck native to Africa or were they introduced? And they are native. They were always here, gracing our riverine areas and waterways with their dazzling appearance, striking colours, and of course their funky smell. Ooh, now the wind's turning, getting a bit of that whiff I was talking about. He seems to be proud of that smell. Sophie, you say you like the pattern on their ears. If we zoom in on his ears, you'll see that they do have an interesting look, similar actually to steenbok. And now the hypothesis or the theory behind this is that it helps with the blending in. Waterbuck, I don't think so much. Steenbok, as they lie quietly in the bush, they try to blend in and their ears actually look like leaves, funnily enough. I think this waterbuck's ears are just very hairy, perhaps as a protection against dust and insects that might want to be going in there. What a lovely moment spent with this beautiful waterbuck bull.
So talking about beautiful waterbuck, have a look at these beautiful kudu bulls that are standing right next to each other. So it's just basically where we had the giraffe earlier, but look at this, it looks like a mirror image of one another. What really stands out to me is just, like, I mean, if we had to describe this kudu, look at the ears, you'll notice inside all the little bit of pink, white rim around the ear, that white around the eyes, and under the mouth. Hey, with the kudu, they're not endangered. There's quite a few kudus that you do find within this area, and they are capable of moving quite far distances. Now, I have seen before where kudu, probably the size of these ones, were capable of clearing a fence of nearly 3 meters. So they are very well capable of just moving pretty much anywhere they like. But it's not an endangered antelope. So unlike a sable or maybe a roan antelope, not as endangered, they're more common to see. But look at those round cup-like ears. How this one is focused. I don't know if everyone heard, but there was quite a few francolin. There were alarm calling and doves that flew off. It might have been they got in a fright from one another. But immediately this kudu focused those big round ears into that direction, scanning, listening out to hear if there's any potential danger. Hannah, they do to some extent. You'll often see with kudus, especially with bulls like this, whenever they're in a really good condition, you'll find that the humps are quite muscular, and then especially the neck as well. And they're one of the first species, especially when the environment is slowly starting to degrade, that they will show the signs for it. A lot of people refer to them as an indication, a keystone species, so in other words, or an indicator species. So as soon as there's any changes within the environment, they're one of the first species to show that. Now, in some areas where there's not a lot of trees, often what you find is as soon as there's a change in season, you often notice that in the central part of South Africa, around the Free State province, whenever there's a change in seasons, the condition of the veld or the environment starts dropping, and once that drops, you can immediately start seeing it in the condition of these animals. But very majestic. Look at the way that he's just standing there. And those horns almost look like some of the branches. You notice the branches off to the right. How does that not resemble the horns of these kudus? And even notice on the side of the body where that hump is, towards the belly, you notice these white stripes. Now, most of the trees within this area are known as magic guarris, and they have a whitish stem whenever the sunlight hits them at the right angle. And with him standing in the shade, those outlines on the body and also having those horns really makes him blend into a dense area like this. But a very majestic animal.
So we just had a really, really cool but very fast sighting, literally and figuratively. We had a cheetah that crested a dune out to our left-hand side. Doesn't look like a relaxed animal, but that little herd of gemsbuck that you're seeing down the bottom, the cheetah actually flushed them out. So he wasn't going for the gemsbuck. The wind was in his favour. So I think we gave him a bit of a fright as we were moving on a different road. We hadn't seen him, and he flushed out. Darby spotted him just trotting up towards the dune crest. So these gemsbuck are nice and relaxed now. What we're actually going to do now, we're going to go forward down the road, and we're actually going to amble around just to our left-hand side. We're going to scan up towards the dunes. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to see this cat. But let's just head down there. They make great use of these dune crests to actually scan from, because it's cooler, but then also they've got a nice field of view. This is such a long shot, but any of you that want to, when the show finishes now, any of you that want to join us, just look up Wild Earth on the internet, and you can join us on YouTube. So what was the question? I didn't get that. Sorry, I missed the question there. But yeah, just have a look up Wild Earth on the internet, and you'll find us on Twitter, YouTube. Rosalind has just asked, how big is Tswalu? Tswalu is 120,000 hectares, so it's a massive area. You can fit a whole lot of other reserves inside Tswalu if you felt like it. Okay, so the dune crest that we're looking at is that side over there. I'm not seeing anything obvious at the moment. Okay, and if you, sorry, we're just trying to get an angle over here where we can, this will be like in the dying minutes of the game here, but anyway. Well, it is fantastic having you with us, and like I say, if you want to keep joining us on the rest of the live safari, just have a look on the internet and you'll get us. Wild Earth.
Welcome back to Djuma. We are just stopped here at Little Pan, below Twin Dams, and spotted this very cool bird, which we're going to chat about now. My name is David Hancock, and on camera we have Craig, and we are excited to be bringing you this live African safari. Craig actually spotted this bird. It's a very cool bird called a greater painted snipe. See if we can have a zoom in on it there. It's a little bit in the shadow. Beautiful bird. Very vivid in coloration. Not commonly seen. I've only seen them just less than a handful of times out here. Looks like it's very content there in its little puddle. Lots of life in this little pond, little mud wallow. See, the water is full of algae. Doesn't look like the cleanest water in the world, but I would consider a swim if it was a hot day. Almost there. Our spring is coming, and then I'll be jumping in. Notice all the weaver nests decaying there after the breeding season. Makes it look like Halloween out here in the bush. Leave Etch Wild, you commented on that greater painted snipe, saying what a long beak. It is a long beak indeed. I suppose it helps it with grabbing its food, insects and crustaceans, whatever it can find. I know they like worms. Maybe it helps to grab an earthworm out of the dirt, that long beak, which it's now hiding. Now it looks like a greater headless snipe. Maybe it also helps with cleaning itself between its plumage and feathers. Whatever the reason, it's just the right length of beak it was meant to have. I really like the look of this little mudwallow. It reminds me of Lord of the Rings when Frodo and Sam are crossing the scary lake before Mordor. All the algae in the water and the tree with all those weaver nests hanging down. Something about it looks kind of cool. Linda, you're asking, is it looking for fish? At the moment, I don't think it's doing much of anything. I think it's quite relaxed, the snipe. Maybe it's already had a meal. Maybe it's waiting patiently for a little aquatic insect to come along. It'd be nice to see it move a little bit. But for now we'll let it be nice and relaxed there in the shade. It's amazing, even these little bodies of water, how much life they attract. If you could really break it down and see how much insect life is here and bird life. Even water monitors and all sorts of things that come down here and derive life from the moisture. Everything from the tiniest little elephant shrew all the way up to the mighty elephant will come and drink here. You can see all around the bank tracks of all sorts of animals, from little steenbok footprints to massive elephant spade feet pushing into the mud. Perhaps Thandi and her cub even drank here recently, and now we've been on the hunt for her. Nothing yet, but hopefully we will find them. I think Lauren was going to be trying to follow up on that this afternoon. So the perfect little habitat for these trees to grow in. I think these trees are probably going to go quite quickly, having all this water around them. A lot of leadwood trees here. I've actually never seen so many leadwoods around a mudwallow. All of these little trees are leadwoods, which you might know is our probably hardest tree we get out here. Very dense, very slow growing. This is a leadwood that these weaver nests are hanging off of. They're so dense that they actually sink in water, whereas most wood will float if a branch is thrown into the water. But this is still a baby, and it's probably older than me. They get massive, but they stand for thousands of years, literally. They'll grow for thousands of years and then stand for a few thousand more. They're so hard and termite resistant that nothing can really bring them down. Nothing but the weight of time, which will eventually over many generations break it down. This tree has still got a long time ahead of it. It's the amazing thing to me about the bush. You think this tree, unless a herd of elephant come through here and smash it, nothing breaks it, it'll be here much longer than Craig and I.
Weaver's nest to crested barbet, the punk rockers of the bush. Sitting perfectly, actually. We've tried to frame up a lot of birds today and they have not played ball, but this guy is. My name is Lauren. It's Theo on camera today and we have arrived at Tswalu, hoping for some thirsty animals to come down to drink, but sadly I don't think anyone's thirsty and I don't know why not, because it's a very, very hot afternoon here. Aren't they just fantastic looking? They're also fantastic in the way they breathe. They have a very unique and specialized way of breathing in a circular motion. So if you think of us humans doing yoga, where we maybe hold one nostril and breathe, inhale through one and then exhale through the other. Inhale, exhale. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's called circular breathing. Crested barbets have their own unique way of doing this, which is very unusual, and it allows them to make that call that they make. And I'm not going to play it just now because we have a barbet right in front of us, but later I will play it for you so that you can hear the sound of their call. It's very high-pitched. It's like a trill. Okay, that was terrible. It doesn't sound anything like that, but I will show you on my bird app later. So they're very unique birds. I don't think they get enough credit. And it's due to a special apparatus that they have inside. Biologically, they have adapted to breathe this way. It means they can continue to call, but in a much more high-pitched tone without stopping to breathe. So they're breathing and calling at the same time, which is absolutely fantastic. And not all humans can do this either. We have the ability to do it, but we have to perfect it. We have to train. There's lots of things that humans can do that we have to train. And circular breathing is one of them, but it's not natural to us. There's a bird in the distance there, Theo. Challenge number one. I don't know what it is. Could be the fish eagle coming to land. I think it's the fish eagle. Wow, how majestic. I wonder if it's going to swoop down to hunt. Very well done, Theo. I gave him a challenge and he accepted it, sitting up on top of this jackalberry here. And the last time I was at Tswalu with this fish eagle, it swooped down and picked up an African green pigeon. So I wonder if it's just perched or if it's hungry. The smaller birds have definitely got to watch out when this aerial predator is in the vicinity. It's very rare to come to Tswalu and not see the fish eagle. Oh, we've got a wood hoopoe down here as well, Theo. You see at the base of this tree where the barbet is in. Up this one. The one with the awesome mohawk of feathers. Oh, it's eating. It's caught something. It just swallowed something. And we're seeing exactly how it uses that long, sharp beak to stab and pick up any insects that it can. And of course, we've got a token starling there as well. The call of the hoopoe is also fantastic, which I will play for you just a little bit. We don't tend to play the calls of birds when the bird is around. Roshi, you're saying one of your favourite birds. I'm not sure which bird you're talking about. The crested barbet, the hoopoe, or the eagle, but they're all fantastic. They're really, really all great birds. They're definitely in my top 10, that's for sure. Oh, the hoopoes came back out again. I think it's a Birchall starling next to it, but I can't quite tell. Here we go. Wow, someone's really hungry. I'm actually looking forward to the day that summer, or spring should we say, spring comes around again, the seasons change and all the migrants arrive. It's such a happy, special time. I'm trying to just scan to see if we can see any other birds for you. But I think we're going to head down to the dam, see if there's anything going on around the dam. I'm sure there'll be hippos. Gremlin, you're saying the hoopoe looks like a woodpecker. Do you think so? I know what you mean by that, but that long, sharp beak. But they do, of course, look different. Very, very different. I actually really love the woodpeckers around here. They also have specialized adaptations. If you have ever seen an image of a woodpecker's tongue, it starts in the mouth, but it actually goes all the way around the head. They have an incredibly long tongue, and it's fascinating. But yes, they do look similar, woodpeckers and hoopoes. Here's the hippos. They have a bird on their head, I imagine. It's an oxpecker, but let's see. Yes, it's a red-billed oxpecker. I never thought I'd say this, but on days like this, I do wish I was a hippo. So we're going to explore Tswa a little bit further and see what else we can find.
How incredible is this? So remember earlier this morning, or for some of our viewers that haven't seen the video or seen the live safari this morning, we were able to find that leopard with a young dwarf mongoose this morning. And this is that same leopard. So it's not the one we saw earlier on the drive, it's another one. So this is the young male of that group called the Shitsalala leap. And you can just see where he's positioned himself, like at the base of this drainage line, just behind this bush. And what would be really nice, is especially with the angle that he's lying down in, is if he opens his eyes, I want everyone just to have a look at the color. And you'll notice is this golden, oh, on that note, I think he just feels like he's too tired to show us any bit of himself. But he's so well hidden. Look, if we move out, it's so hard to see him. Now, we were very lucky that this afternoon the trackers, Tom and Adam, came past this area and they managed to spot him, like coming down into this drainage line. Now, I wonder where the sister and the mother would be, because often he is also now getting to the stage where he's more seen by himself. But occasionally, whenever the mom makes a kill, she'll come and call him and his sister to go and feed. And the older you get, the less likely that's going to happen, until eventually he gets pushed away from her. But it's still another couple of months, maybe possibly another year or so, before she eventually pushes him out, and he needs to then fend for himself. And then, like the Makoti male we saw earlier, that often, either if he can't hunt for himself, he'll often steal the kills from possibly other animals, especially female leopards. Fred, that's a very good question. I mean, from the experience that or from all the stories that I've heard, and from my personal experience, I've noticed that they have been habituated when it comes to vehicles and people, but not to the extent that you would domesticate a house cat. They won't be as relaxed. Once they get to a certain stage, almost like lions, they'll, to some extent, you'll be able to work with them, but once they go past that, they become really aggressive. They have unpredictable behavior, or less predictable behavior. And I don't know, maybe one of our viewers have been able to have an opportunity to deal with it, or know about anyone. I would love to hear from any of our viewers if they've ever heard about it or even seen it. But from my personal experience, never fully domesticated. But what a lovely afternoon. Just where he's lying down now, there's actually some sunlight creeping closer to him. So eventually he'll either start getting up and move into the shade again, or he might just be spending a bit of time there until it cools down a bit more, and hopefully we can see him getting up.
We've sat here. The hippos have all submerged. I was actually just having another chat to another vehicle there. There seems to be a lot of activity going on. We need to go and investigate, potentially Siberian cubs, which gets me very, very excited. So we will move on in just a moment to try and investigate that area. Hippos, where have you gone? They can submerge for anywhere between 5 to 6 minutes as an adult. They really don't have to come up for air. It's not a requirement. Whereas for humans it would be. They don't breathe underwater, they're just very specialised at holding their breath. Now this is slightly awkward, isn't it? We don't see any hippos. Oh, there you go. Back under. It's also very hot today, so I imagine if you're a hippo, it's ideal to be under the water. Let's reverse, Theo. That'll be easier for you. Humans can train themselves to hold their breaths like that. You really can. There's a very interesting sort of piece of human anatomy. And let me explain it to you. So when we are babies, if you watch the way a newborn breathes, it's completely different to how an adult, like myself, breathes. We actually lose that ability to control your diaphragm. So you have your lungs and then you have your diaphragm. Why can I not see any hippos? Okay, I'm doing a very long reverse here across the damn wall. So yes, if you think of our breathing, it's very, very shallow. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, using the chest. We're not actually contracting our diaphragm in any way, shape or form, but we do when we're a newborn baby. Okay, can you work with this, Theo, before I end up falling off the damn wall? Oh! Very dramatic. Hippos love the drama. So yes, if you imagine your lungs, you've got your diaphragm underneath. What you can do if you want to train yourself, especially if you want to be a free diver, is actually pull down your diaphragm, learn the sort of art of doing that before you then fill your lungs with air. And it's a very specialized technique that it took myself a long time to learn, rather than this just shallow, hollow breathing in and out through your tummy that we do as adults. Humans develop this very lazy way of breathing. But if we do want to submerge for 5 to 6 minutes like a hippo, we can train ourselves, and it is possible. You just need to change your breathing technique. and it's fascinating. If you Google search apnea, you will find lots of sort of advice on how to do that. And it's not easy. But it's sort of shallow tummy breathing to diaphragm breathing. And it's very, very different. And you can see it in humans. We change as we develop. Sorry, Londeka, I didn't get that question one more time. There we all are. They made us work hard for that, Theo, didn't they? I'm going to guess here. TaylorMade, I think you're asking why do hippos stay in the water instead of on land? I hope that was your question. So if you think about it, hippos are very large animals. They've got a heavy body weight behind them. Okay, that is the question. And if they were to walk on land all day, there's quite a few factors to take into consideration. Their body weight, they're actually nocturnal, and their skin. So they've got very fine, unique skin. It's up to 7 times finer and at risk of dehydration than any other mammal. It's very specialized skin. It's very thin. Now they do have a big layer of fat underneath that, yes, but the actual skin itself is very thin and it's at risk of dehydrating a lot quicker than other animals, and it cracks and it gets very dry. So the hippos stay in water, A, to protect their skin from the sun, constantly moisturizing it, constantly hydrating it, and B, to support their body weight. So hippos can't swim, believe it or not, TaylorMade. They're really not swimmers, but what they can do is stay in a dam like this. They're near the edge of the dam, so it's probably quite... They're agreeing with me. And second, it's energy saving. So they're protecting their skin, but they're also staying in the water and buoying themselves up. So they're probably standing at the bottom. They can also control their buoyancy, which is another thing that you need to take into consideration if you ever wanted to be a free diver. Your buoyancy, they're able to control that, and they just stay buoyed up in the water. They don't need to waste any energy. They don't need to expend any energy. It's a fantastic way to rest and digest, because you've spent the whole night feeding, because they're nocturnal foragers, generally speaking, and they're literally just resting. So they're the only ungulate that's said to be truly amphibious, and what amphibious means is 2 lives. They need the water, land and water, just like amphibians, just like frogs. They're not truly aquatic, but they're also not truly terrestrial. And the full Latin name for a hippo is Hippopotamus amphibius. So that tells you immediately that this particular species really requires the water. But the name hippopotamus actually comes from the Greek language for water horse. Big water horses. But yes, TaylorMade, I hope that answers your question. So they just keep buoyed up and they're saving a lot of energy. So generally speaking, hippos only eat about 1.5% of their body weight, generally speaking. Whereas other mammals need to eat about 5% of their body weight to sustain their nutrient requirements. So hippos eat a lot less. So that's why staying in the water, staying buoyed up, is actually really beneficial for hippos, because they can save energy while they're digesting and protect their skin at the same time. And have a jolly good time. Who doesn't have a good time in the water? I know we see hippos a lot, but they really are fascinating. And you'll notice sometimes on a hippo, they're very red or bright pink in some parts of their body. And this is actually from a really specialized substance. It's very oily, very viscous, that's secreted. And it's red. Comes from various different mucus glands on the skin, and it's called hipposudoric acid. And it's a really specialized substance that I'm sure is only found in hippos, and it acts as a sunscreen. So when the skin starts to dry and crack, these glands, these very, very special mucus glands, will secrete this substance, and it's there to protect the skin. It's actually made up of two, oh my goodness, that gave me a fright. It's actually made up of two pigments. One is red and one is orange. So when it's released from the skin, it's actually clear. But these two pigments polymerize, and the red colour is stronger than the orange, so it looks red in the end. So it protects from the sun, sunscreen. It also moisturizes, hydrates. It's just a fantastic substance for the hippo's skin. Sorry, Londeka, you'll have to repeat that question. I know it's from you, Sassy Cassie. I just haven't quite got the question. Have hippos ever swum in the ocean? I don't believe so, but they are very closely related to oceanic animals. So their lineage, their lines of evolution are whales and porpoises. So they're land mammals themselves that do need the water to survive, but I don't believe they've ever swam in the ocean. They've maybe swam in saltwater bodies that have an influx from the ocean, so it's maybe sort of high in salt concentration, but I don't believe they swim in the ocean. That's not sort of where they've derived from, but their close relatives have. I find it quite relaxing watching hippos. And going back to that special substance on their skin, it's actually proven to be an antiseptic. It's a wonderful substance that treats their wounds. Hippos are notorious for fighting, and they're terrible at it. They're not good fighters. And they end up being wounded regularly. And this substance that comes out from their skin assists in their healing. There's lots of scientific labs across the world that have really analysed this substance to see if they can, recreate it in the lab, so it would be a synthetic version, to see if it would have any benefits for human skin as an antiseptic. We can learn an enormous amount from the animal kingdom. Unfortunately, I didn't get that name, but do their ears get filled with water? Yes, just like ours. Humans can submerge. We can go under, and the water does not trickle into our inner ear. There's a sort of mechanism there to prevent that from happening. So the outer ear will fill with water, but not necessarily the inner ear. And as a calf, the young calves are actually sort of adapted to suckling underwater. They're able to close their nostrils, and they're able to fold down their ears as a youngster to prevent the water flooding in. But just like humans, it will go in the outer ear, but not the inner ear. So I'm now going to investigate what's going on around the corner, and hopefully we might find some spots.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
So we're out in this magical landscape, and this afternoon I'm actually taking you to a spot that I've wanted to take you to for a long time. And one day when you're here, you'll see it for yourself. But for now, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and wait until a little bit later, and you're going to see. But while I'm out here, I just wanted to show you something really interesting here. And it's a bit difficult because there are no animals around me at the moment, but just bear with me. where we saw those lions yesterday on that Gemsbuck hill, remember, those of you who are following, remember I said we'd actually had a herd of Gemsbuck moving across our front like that, and we deliberately didn't go in because we didn't want to impact on the kill either way. You know, you don't want to be influencing these things. But what was notable in that particular area was the concentration of Gemsbuck. In other words, they were in big groups. And the further you move away from that area, you start seeing where there's less risk of predation. Okay, there's less risk from apex predators. So you start getting these groups splintering. You're getting ones and twos. And really what's happening there is, in the face of predation, okay, where okay, there's lions behind every bush, so you'd rather group together. So it's a trade-off between saying, well, I want to eat food, I want to eat grass, okay, but there's lots of predators around, so what do? I'd rather take my chances with a whole pile of my friends around me in case they get eaten. It's kind of like, hopefully they get eaten and not me, and I will go with a little bit less food or more competition in the group for food, but at least I've got a higher chance of survival. As you get less and less and less predator pressure, there's less incentive. If you're a grazer or a browser and you're competing for food, there's less incentive to walk around in a big group the whole time, because you'd say, well, actually, I'm not going to get eaten, or there's very little chance I'll get eaten, so I'm actually going to, you go off there, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to eat. And what the result of that is, the further you move out into these dune fields, the more sparse the vegetation becomes. And you can actually get times here where it is literally just bare sand in places, and that is primarily due to a low density of apex predators as you move out into these dune fields. And it is very, very, very telling on the environment. We've got very good data now from our pangolin and aardvark researchers, where you're seeing out in these areas away from the hills, as you go into these dry times, you see on the insect pitfall traps, where they just catch a whole lot of insects and they just count them and then they release them happily to live happily ever after. But you see this slow and steady decline in insect numbers on these pitfall traps, and that has a direct impact on the survival of pangolin and aardvark. So these apex predators are crucially important in these environments for maintaining ecosystem health, and that cannot be substituted in any other way. I mean, you can't manually go out there and try and move animals around, that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's just a little bit of ecological background to these environments that we're operating in. But it is stunningly beautiful, and I'm going to show you this other place, but I can't tell you where it is or what it looks like, but it is an absolute wonderland.
The smell hasn't moved too much. He's only repositioned his head a little bit slightly more off towards the riverbed, but how beautiful is that though? Look at those beautiful long whiskers. And you'll notice with his eyes closed, there are quite a few flies around, but he's not even moving his ears. I reckon he must be in a bit of a deep sleep. But the other thing we wanted to point out, now one of the ways to find leopards, of course, we said like possibly spotting them, but the other way is tracking. Now if you look at that track in the middle of the screen, do you notice the little pads right in the front there and in the back? Now if we can move, I just want to show you on this, I have a book right over here that I just wanted to show you the pad. So if we do track leopard, of course it depends on the habitat we're tracking in, which will determine the level of how difficult it is. Also if they were on a mission to get somewhere, and either if there's a carcass or maybe he's on his way to a waterhole, there's a lot of factors, but this is what we're looking out for. Now with the leopard's track, almost similar to in comparison to that of a lion. But what I find is that when a leopard makes a print in the ground, it looks like it's more delicate and more clear in comparison to that of a lion. And if you look here with a leopard, you'll notice there's 3 lobes at the back. 1, 2, 3. And you'll notice the 4 pads in the front. 1, or the digits here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that's what we're trying to look out for. Now, sometimes you might find hyenas that are trailing the leopard. Now hyenas, their tracks aren't as clear in comparison to that of a leopard. And also, instead of having 3 lobes like a leopard, they only have 2 lobes. And the side digits here, they look like they are the shape of a kidney. And then on top, you'll find the claws. Where with leopard, unless they're running or unless they're jumping onto a tree, they don't really expose their claws on the soil. Unless, also, maybe if they do step on a very soft patch of mud or maybe even sand, you might see that the claws can come out. But on normal conditions, you don't really see those claws. So if we can, let's just have another glimpse at him again. Now what I'm really hoping for is that eventually he'll just start getting up, maybe even give us a little stretch, move into that little patch of sand that's right in front of him. But I mean, that's what we want for him. All he wants now to do is he just wants a bit of rest. With a leopard, what I do know about them is if they had to run at full speed towards us, now just to give you an idea, if we had to compare it, it will probably be around 80 kilometers an hour. But this is now from a very short burst, trying to determine the maximum speed. So if we had to put that down into something that we can more or less understand, is let's say if this leopard had to run towards us, it will take, if this leopard is at full pace, it will take it less than 2 seconds to cover at least 15 meters. So imagine how quick that is. If you say 1, 2, it will be, so the distance that we are from here to this leopard would probably be, if I'm safe to say, around about 8 meters. So let's multiply that by another possibly 3. If that leopard had to come at full pace, it would take that leopard less than 3 seconds, or 2 seconds, to get from 3 times this distance towards us. That's how quickly they run. Raven, I do agree. I think they are very adorable when they do lie down like that. They just, I don't know, but with a leopard, I always feel like, doesn't matter how rough the terrain is, doesn't matter where they are, whenever they do lie down, they just they just look so comfortable, either if it's on a branch or if it's in a rocky section or even down in the riverbed. Now this one has a very interesting pattern above his eye. Now if you look at see the 2 splashes of white, so the one underneath his eye and the one above his eye. Have you noticed that pattern above the eye almost resembles a smiley face? You can see it starts off at the right and it curls down into a C towards the eye, and just above that, the little nose and then the 2 eyes. So why I'm pointing that out is because often with leopards in particular, like individuals, every single leopard has a different spot pattern to one another. And based on those spot patterns around the face, also you see where the whiskers are, you'll notice there's also quite a few spots, even like right next to the nose, you'll notice there's 2 spots right next to each other, and then under that is where the whiskers start. So those are also things that we can use in order to identify them. And it's really important, I mean, especially when you're doing research to try and establish where or how big a leopard's territory would be, or the movements within an area. It's really important to know exactly which leopard you're talking about and to be able to identify individuals from one another. You might hear in the background there's a bird calling like way. So it's called the grey go-away bird. The old name was the grey lory. And the sound it makes often sounds like the bird's just saying like, go away.
Fantastic sighting we've got here. This may be a first of this species for many of you viewers. This is called a northern black korhaan, Korhan, a northern black korhaan. And look how handsome he is. This is the male. Striking yellow legs, black on the chest with those white blazes on the shoulder, and then that white patch around the ear coverts. Beautiful, beautiful bird. Unfortunately, it's just moving into the wrong angle for the light over there. But we've got two species here. One you may or are probably very familiar with from our other guides. The red-crested korhaan, we have that here as well. And that's the one that does that crazy display flight, goes vertically for 20, 30 meters, folds his wings and drops. This little guy does this big circle, a massive circle. He flies up and goes cluck, 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 cluck. That was a horrible imitation, but yeah, he makes this huge squawking sound like he's got rusty wings in a massive arc. And then he almost hovers to the ground. He comes down very, very slowly, flaring his wings, just fluttering them very, very gently with his legs hanging out, almost like a parachute, and drops gently onto the ground. But this is so nice to see this. They're actually also starting to breed now as well. So we are going slap bang into breeding season on a lot of these birds. So I need to start just sharpening up my act a little bit and try to find some nests for you guys. But how beautiful is that, eh? Just behind a bush. I'm going to pull forward a fraction. Maybe we'll get a slightly better sighting just on the other side, yeah? Sorry, I'm driving a bit of a tractor now at the moment. The engine's quite noisy, so forgive me. Okay, where are you, big boy? Somewhere out there. Okay, let me just go forward. Yeah, wait, hold on. Hang on. David, say if you can see it, eh? Oh, he is gone. He's somewhere there. He must be somewhere. But this, for those of you interested in the birds, it's a northern black korhaan. I think the old name is a white-quilled korhaan, but that was donkeys years ago. Anyway, that was a cool sighting. It's just nice to see them. And they, again, talking about vegetation and grass cover. This grass cover is vitally important for species like this. You will start losing species like this as nesting because they cannot nest on bare ground with no cover. Firstly, it gets too hot. And remember, when we talk about incubation, HB says he's in a hurry. Absolutely, it does seem like he's in a hurry. But incubation is typically thought of as, we got to try to keep our eggs warm. Well, birds try to keep their eggs warm. But it's not just about keeping the eggs warm, but it's try to keep that temperature stable. So in other words, you want the eggs not to get too hot. You don't want them to get too cold. They've got to be just right, like Goldilocks, something like that, yeah.
Leopard.
Huh? Link leopard, go. Leopard, there's a leopard. Head to the leopard.
Tsabui, everybody. We've got Tsabui, female leopard. She just scent marked at the bottom of that tree, and now she's on the move, which means we need to move. She's really on patrol. We're on the southern boundary, and she appears to be alone. Tsabui has 2 cubs, male and female. And we're right on the boundary, so I think at any moment she's going to cross and then we lose her. So we're just trying to keep up with her for now. Oh, she's moving really, really fast. Let's try and get a gap. Theo, we thought we would see spots today, didn't we? We had a feeling. There you go. Go, go, go. We're going to have to be quick on the mark here because she's really on the ball. Now it's interesting to see Sibui on Djuma. She hasn't really popped into Djuma in a long time. Remember, she's got neighbours. She's got Tandy to the east, Shadulu to the west. So Djuma's really not for the taking anymore, okay? She's going to appear again. How exciting is this?
Incoming.
She's walking all the way up Djuma fire break. Okay, let's move. This is going to be a tricky operation, this. Can you see her, Theo? I have completely lost sight of her. I'm going to pull in here and hopefully she's going to walk in front of the car. Okay, just give it a minute or two. Patience normally pays off. So we're just making space for the vehicle. I can't see her at all. I'm going to pop my nose forward a little bit. Okay, watch this branch, Theo. Okay, everyone, I appear to have lost a female leopard. Can't see where she's gone. I think she's up ahead. I think she was faster than us. Can you believe it? Yep, she's up ahead. So we're now stuck behind a car at the minute. So we'll play leapfrog here, which is how it normally works at sightings. Everybody gets their turn to be at the front. So we'll... Ah, there she is, there she is. You see her? She's facing the southern boundary. If she keeps on going, she's going to cross. No, Sibui. Okay, let's see if we can get last minute visuals of her face. She's going to cross into Little Gowrie. Our favourite words, everybody. Yep, she's crossing. Brief, but better than nothing. Okay, and that is it for Sibui for now, everyone. Brief, but wonderful. So I'm going to go back to Chitwa and find out what on earth made the kill outside Shell's house.
This male just, from early on when we saw him, he just turned back and he's now lying down on his back. Look at how he's crossed his legs over one another. It's like he's giving himself a hug. But he really looks comfortable. Now, early on we were pointing out quite a lot of features on this leopard, but we haven't really described too much about the area. Now, with leopard, whenever you are looking for them, you often need to go past drainage lines or quite dense areas. Now, if you look at this area where this leopard is lying down in, notice the greenery around it. Often the low-lying areas, especially near the rivers or even this drainage system which runs towards the river, there will often be a lot of green trees around. And because of the green trees in this time of the year, some of the animals are attracted to it, and so therefore the leopard can use this in order to conceal itself, break out that body outline in order to hunt. But also, on warm days, there's a lot of shelter here, there's a lot of cover for him to come and lie down and just rest up. So Khofatso, with leopards in general, the older they get, the more worn down the tracks could possibly get, and as well they could damage that pad. Now, there's a tracker that I've gone out a couple of times, and he's been literally tracking for over 20 years. And then one day we were looking at this particular male leopard track, and I asked him, how did he know that this was an old male instead of just a young male? And he said sometimes what happens, remember early on we pointed out the 3 lobes in the back of this leopard track. So he reckons that the older they get, especially when they get past 10 years, that those 3 lobes at the back start to slowly wear down, and it's not as clear as in comparison to that of a younger leopard. So you can get that, where especially the older they get, there might be damage from either stepping on a thorn, maybe cutting it somewhere on a sharp rock as it's trying to get away or trying to hunt, or as they get older it might slowly start just to show a bit of it fainting at the back in comparison to a younger one. We can hear some crested francolin, like alarm calling in the back, and I wonder, maybe there's a chance that the sister or the mother could be in the area. And imagine if they start getting a little bit closer, you'll probably hear the movement. The mom might even start calling, because she could have gone out hunting and eventually come back to give him a call. Now, if he is in an area like this, it might be a chance that he's just, like his sister and mother are lying down not too far away from me, or maybe she's gone and hunt and eventually come back and call him and his sister. And his sister might also just be lying down somewhere in a place where we can't really see her. Now, from this morning, we remember when we saw them, he had that little dwarf mongoose, and he was in the sunlight next to that termite mound. And as soon as it started getting warmer, he didn't move too far. He probably moved 20 meters from where we saw him earlier, but his initial reaction was probably just to move into a bit of an area where there's some cover, like this drainage line, as we explained earlier. And you see the bush where he's lying down now. Maybe even go and lie down under that bush for the majority of the day, and slowly started to move out as the sun was fading off.
Look at these 2 young male giraffe. Looks like they just literally crossed the road, and you'll find them feeding on the tall trees, and now they're just on the right hand side of the road. Right, welcome everyone. Welcome aboard on your own safari at Djuma. My name is Andrew Corsa from around the near. I'm actually local around here. I'm new in this job. I'm very much new. So just going to try and move forward, see if we can locate them again. Yeah. Looks like too much sun, but
So, we've got this kudu bull, a massive kudu bull, who's busy eating the leaves in this small little drainage line, which is gorgeous, don't often get to see massive kudu bulls like this so out in the open. Look at the muscles on this kudu's flanks and shoulders and his neck. I don't know if you know, but kudus are well known and famous for huge leaps, being able to jump 6 feet or more from a single bound over fences and trees and bushes, and that's actually one of their defense mechanisms. They're able to just leap over any bushes that are in their way, which is incredible. It's one of the ways they're able to escape danger, because of course the lions that are chasing them will have to run around the bushes. If you can hear a sound, that's a small aircraft that is actually doing anti-poaching patrols around this area, flying over. That's why that kudu looks a little wary. He's listening all around. You see that, how the ears move around. It's a small anti-poaching aircraft flying over, just making sure that these areas are safe. There's that kudu bull. Look how well he blends into the environment. Look how grey there. And the kudu is also very grey. They call them the grey ghosts of the bush. Bye-bye, kudu. See you later. The other ones are just walking off, also towards the sunset. But there's a few giraffes in front of us, which are pretty cool. So often you'll find that there are lots of giraffes, kudus, and other antelope all together, because of course they feed on different things, different heights, and of course they also help each other to spot danger. Now, kudus have amazing sense of hearing. Giraffes are very tall. They've got great eyesight, and there's also a zebra in this area as well, who is probably also helping them. Kudus are mixed feeders, mostly browsers, and so are giraffes, but they feed at different levels. And zebras are grazers, so of course these animals are not going to be competing with each other over food resources. So there's no problem for them to be together. Well, that's very mysterious, isn't it? Through the trees, we have a glimpse into the life of this giraffe as it disappears into the bushveld. It's actually quite nice now that the sound of that anti-poaching craft has moved over. It's very quiet. We can hear crested francolin calling. We can feel the temperature changing. Oh, there's the more kudu bulls ahead of us approaching the giraffe there, as well as the zebra, all moving together now. It's quite a nice peaceful scene in the bush here. It'll be a good place for us just to sit and listen to what animals might be calling as the evening falls. And there's a zebra. So we don't see zebras all that often here at Pridelands. In fact, one came to drink at Ndlovu Dam at our camp earlier, which was interesting, because that's the first time I've ever seen a zebra come to drink at the eco-training camp. So I wonder if it's just getting that dry, that the animals are getting quite desperate for water. They do drink water most days, but we just didn't see them, because there's just not that many. And this is a plains... Oh, he's got a limp. He's got a bad limp. You see that? I think it's the same one we saw a few days ago, Zeb? Yeah. I remember this one. We saw him actually quite close to our eco-training camp last time, walking through zebra clearings, I think, but you can see he's got quite a distinct limp, which is actually worrying, because I thought by now the limp would have gotten better. It's been 2 or 3 days since we last saw him. Must have either sprained his ankle real bad, or maybe, even broken it. I doubt he's broken it. He's putting a bit of weight on there, but he's still in great condition. You can see the rump of this zebra is very strong. The mane is very erect. So obviously it must be quite a recent injury, because the zebra is still in great condition. Normally it would be with a group. I think there's a group of males that hang around and they would all be together, but because of this limp it's not able to keep up. Let's hope that the zebra will be able to meet up with the rest of a small bachelor group in order for the safety. And that's probably actually why the zebra is with this giraffe and with the kudus, just for the fact that it doesn't have to look behind itself all the time. It doesn't have to watch its own back. It's got others that might do so. Not that I think... I don't know. I don't like to anthropomorphize to say that, but I probably do it all the time. But, I don't think the animals look out for each other necessarily. I think they look out for themselves, but in doing so, they help others. It's good. I love the patterns on zebra. Look at that pattern on its tail. It looks like the tail is plaited. Do you see that? The patterns crisscross over. And then you can see the dark stripes and the pale stripes, what they call the shadow stripes. That's one of the indicators of the plains zebra. Eating the rough grass. They're bulk feeders. So you see they eat the long grass, the dry stuff, the roughage. They're not worried about what they eat as long as they get plenty of it. They've got that hindgut fermentation system. So they produce a lot of gas, they eat in bulk, they don't digest very, very well. Amanda, that's a good point. One that I hadn't actually considered. Could this zebra have been injured in a fight with another zebra, maybe been kicked? And I think you could be right, Amanda. Zebras are fiercely defending their harem. So if this is a young male that maybe tried to acquire a young female from another male's harem of females, then it's quite possible that if he got kicked or bitten painfully, it could be that he's got a very sore muscle or joint, or maybe even something fractured. So maybe, because you can't see any rips on there. There's no tears like it was attacked by a lion. So unless it was just galloping around and hurt itself, you could be right. That's a good point, Amanda. I didn't think about that. Thank you for pointing that out. That could exactly be what happened. The males do fight quite frequently. In fact, I think Taylor and Gert a few weeks ago did actually film some zebras having a big fight. A big fight. They said it was very exciting. So it's quite possible that this might have been one of those zebras that is fighting at the moment quite often, which is pretty. Now it's very peaceful, all the giraffes feeding them. There's even a fork-tailed drongo, I think, that's joining the group, hoping to catch insects as they get flushed out of the bushes. This is a quintessential African scene with all these animals and the sunset, and everyone is just having the best time. Everyone's just doing what they should do. A journey of giraffe just wandering through the trees there, probably along a road. In fact, that is along the road where we're going to be heading in a moment. You can see the zebra. I wonder if the zebra is actually going to follow those giraffes. Ooh, striped horse. I don't know. That's a good question. How long can a zebra go without food? Well, probably quite a fair amount of time, to be honest, because they are bulk feeders and this zebra is in great condition. But I wouldn't expect that if a zebra didn't eat anything, after a week, it would probably start being quite weakened. And if it, didn't get enough food, it's easy to tell if they're in poor condition, because their mane will start sagging down. They always look kind of fat because of the gas in their hindgut fermentation digestive system. So they've always got a bit of gas there, but you'll definitely see the neck starting to get thinner. I don't know how long it would take for them to lose condition, but I do know that the bulk grazers, the bulk feeders like zebras and even ones like warthogs are generally the first who die when there's a drought situation. Because although they don't need the best quality material, they do need plenty of it. So if the quality of the food that they're eating drops, and then they just don't have much of it, like if the grass is getting very short and sparse in a drought, they won't survive very long at all. The ruminants, the ones that digest their food multiple times by chewing the cud, they can actually extract a lot more of the nutrients from it. So even if there's poor quality fodder, they can get absolutely everything from it and be able to hold on a bit longer. But the hindgut fermenters, if they don't get enough bulk food, they won't do very well because their digestive system is quite poor. But that's a good question. Striped horse, I love that question. I must do a bit of research to make sure that I understand it fully. But those kind of questions are, the ones that always keep us on our toes. Sometimes, we encourage the students here to think outside the box, not to go for the questions that they could easily find out, by, looking at every mammal guide that comes out, but to dig deeper and to look at what is the essence of this animal, like what are the nuances of it. It's very interesting. Of course, when you get to go on game drive every day, it's a time to actually learn a lot. Seeing 3 hours of an animal doing something, you learn a lot from their behavior. Like if we followed this zebra for full 3 hours, I wonder what we'd see, what we'd experience, what would it do. Being injured as it is, even be that we'd end up seeing it have to escape from danger. We were actually talking about it the other day, Seb. We saw, I don't know, what was it that we saw that was injured? We saw another animal that was injured. I can't remember. An impala, maybe it was a young impala that was limping quite badly as well. Yes. And we said, if we wanted to see an animal, a predator make a kill, we'd probably just stick to that impala because it was young and it was on its own completely and it was limping badly. Follow an animal like that and you'd probably get to see a lot of really amazing behavior. Often I've ever gotten to follow an animal from complete start to finish. That was a weird sound. Did you hear that, Seb?
Elephants.
Elephants going crazy down there. It's like a long growl, belly rumble, and then a high trumpet, and I can hear the cracking of their tusks together. I think there are a few elephant bulls that are having a tussle. I don't know if you can hear that in the ambient sound, but it's incredible. Yeah, I think we should. I don't know what our signal's going to do, though. If we drive forward, we're going to go through a bit of a dip here, and we might actually lose signal. But I'd like to go and investigate these elephants. Let's go and have a look. Okay, bear with us, everyone. It's a lot of noise. It's very loud. And it sounds like it might be like a proper elephant fight. We don't get to see those too often. Sometimes we see them at the dams play fighting, but a proper elephant fight, that's a whole nother level. Oh, you're going to have to hold on here, Seb. Things are going to get a little bit tasty. Put myself into low range and diff lock just so we don't have wheel spin. We don't want to make this crossing any worse than it is. But we will see what we can find with this elephant. I'll be back with you soon.
This is one of the most beautiful places on Tswalu, and I just wanted to show this to you. Unfortunately, this time of the year does not do it a full amount of justice, but we are in a massive, and literally when I say that, it probably covers, I don't know, I'm thumbsucking maybe 2,000 hectares of very, very dense, well, certainly for the Kalahari, very dense woodland, but almost exclusively of one species. And that is silver cluster leaves. It's these trees over here. Our colleagues in the Lowveld are very, very familiar with them. It's got a fantastically coloured timber. It's a very rich yellow colour. The Afrikaans term for it is a sant geelhout, which means a sand yellowwood. But what I like about this area, it's a great nesting spot, a nesting location for nightjars. You find a lot of nests in here, and I think it's just with these fallen leaves, these dry fallen leaves all over the ground, and you can actually see them scattered all over between me and the vehicle there. I think it's just a very, very good camouflage for nightjars. They're still a couple of months away. But the other species that love nesting in this area are bar goshawks and pale chanting goshawks. So that's, I always love just winding my way very, very slowly through these woodlands. But my favorite time of year over here is the summer months, when they are in full leaf and they got these flowers on. I think the flowers smell absolutely like honey. A lot of people argue with me. They say, no, it doesn't smell. It smells like dirty socks. Anyway, I like honey. The flowers smell like honey. So it's a beautiful area. But we'll see it going into its proper flush over the coming weeks.
There's beautiful nyala. We just find them now, a whole bunch of group. It looks like they're all just coming out of that bush. But just looking at the whole bunch of female, look at the stripe, how beautiful they are. And most of my favorite animals, the only animals that you always find them in the ravine, which is all in a drainage line system. But they do come out, for sun and mixed feeder. That's all they do, but grazing and browsing at the same time. Look at them. And then doesn't look like there's any male there for me, because usually male it's pretty much dark in color. Young one as well. So looking at the 2, 4, 6 of them, could be more behind the bush that we're not seeing now, but look at the beautiful ears and beautiful tail as well. They remind me of the sheep tail. So look at that. So only the difference is that it's got a pretty much colored, and the black tip end of that tail. But they are also silent walkers, so they move carefully, even though it's too much dry leaves at the moment, which most of the prey species, they find themselves very difficult to able to hear what is happening around them, especially when the wind blows. So sometimes this is how they come out into this open area to feed on tall grasses, but they're in a group. Yeah, good question there. A feed, if I had it correct. Yeah. My favorite animal, I love impala pretty much, but usually for guides, we kind of not really, we cannot pick. But I find impala very much important for me, and then I always spend a lot of time with impala, looking at them, the way they do, most especially due to their survival, how they make that happen, making sure that they make it through the night, which all they do, they sleep in a very much open area for them to be safe. So they take turns when they sleep, but not a really proper sleep. I mean unconscious sleep, which is half asleep, half awake. So, and then that's how they do when they see any predators or anything they're not sure about. Just give alarm call so everyone to respond into it. And they don't mind different companies such as baboons and giraffe, zebras, and those warthogs. So that's why they are my favorite. Thanks, Mo. From this, one things about me being a game ranger or loving to become a ranger is because of, I love the nature and I love the wild animals, but I love all of them. So trees, flowers, what is living with these, bushes also, which is your animals and birds and most snakes. Well, I know snake are different thing, but they're still part of this job. So even though I don't love them, but I have to deal with them. Yeah, they vanish into the bush, but still a visual of them there. And yeah, that's a very good question. That I know I haven't gone through with this kind of information or read about them much, but I would assume me go back to recheck that and come back to that questions. And then let me do that then, and then I'll come back to answer that question. So so it looks like they're gonna just move on like that, but eventually they'll find themselves a place to hide, back where they're going right now. And the water looks like it's far from here. I don't think they'll be going to water now, and maybe later if they continue going that way. So we're just gonna maybe.
So we found the culprits of our elephant mischief distance, and it looks like it's a young mother who was maybe being bothered by another elephant. As you can see, there's a very young one over there, definitely less than a year old, this tiny thing, and the mother had lots of temporal gland secretions coming out, and she was making a bit of noise that we heard earlier. So you see that wetness there? That's often a sign of something stressing out these elephants. So I think she was being stressed out by one of the others. It's a lot of temporal gland secretion. It's very wet. So you see that when they're stressed. But they seem to be calming down now. I think there was an argument that happened, and there was a bit of a tussle and a fight, and now they seem to have calmed themselves right down, and everything is fine. But look at that little tiny baby. Look how, this is a small female elephant, but this baby can fit basically directly under that mother. So that's definitely under a year.
Guys, we got an aardvark. We have an aardvark foraging. I am over the moon. I haven't seen one of these in like 3 weeks or something. Okay, this is fantastic. Just give us a little bit of time there. Just give us a little bit of time. It is going to come up. I'm actually going to, bear with me. I'm just going to pull forward your fraction, please. Just bear with us, bear with us. You guys just keep watching. David, if you get a gap, just tell me. We're going to get it, we're going to get it. We're going to get it. Please just be... Okay, there we go. So going forward here, and there. Oh, fantastic. Go left, David. Yeah, that's him there. Oh my goodness, look at this, guys. With these birds, look at those ant-eating chats in attendance. Oh, and the wind is perfectly in our favor. It's blowing from the aardvark to us. But look at that interaction, eh? So as he's digging, these little birds are going down and they're just getting all sorts of little insects. And it's not just termites. When we say they're ant-eating chats, they don't just eat ants. They will eat anything they can catch. But of course, as he's digging, he'll be unearthing things that he won't touch at all. It could be frogs, it could be centipedes, it could be little grubs of, caterpillars, that kind of stuff. And he'll just discard those and he'll be feeding on termites and ants, whereas those birds will be eating those other things as well. Okay, this is... Oh, look at that. Oh, my word. Thank you. Thank you. There was no skill involved there, guys. I promise you. That was just bumbling along, and there he was. So anyone out there praying that we had a good sighting, thank you. I very, very much appreciate that. It really helped. He's going to come out now. Just give him a bit of time. And even when you can't see the aardvark, the birds are a very, very good clue. You see how they're going in there? David, if you can just zoom out a fraction there, please. There we go. Now, you see the birds just, if you go a little bit right, okay, just there. Now, every now and again, you see the birds just flitting into the grass over there. So even though you can't see the actual aardvark, that gives you a good clue as to where he is. Vincent has asked, is an aardvark or an anteater and an anteater the same thing? You can kind of use the term anteater for it, but the accepted word for it is an aardvark, which actually means an earth pig. And yes, because they do eat ants, so you could say it's an anteater. Oh, what a lucky sighting for this afternoon, eh? Sure, the pressure's off. There he comes. And those birds constantly in attendance. Aardvarks, they don't. But it is a great question because there's actually one plant that they are recorded eating, and it's actually a melon that grows under the ground. Fructus humifructus, something humifructus. I'll have to check up the genus. It's something humifructus, and this thing actually grows under the ground, and aardvark have been recorded. They've actually recorded the seeds inside their droppings a lot of times. So I'm interested in this. It may be that this thing fruits underground, has the seeds, and then when the aardvark are feeding on termites, they incidentally ingesting those seeds, and that's why you see them in the droppings. But perhaps they actually are eating them. I don't know if there's been a physical observation of someone seeing an aardvark dig one of these things out and eat it. I don't know. But that'll be, again, there's a lot to be said for citizen science. If anyone has a pet aardvark at home that wants to eat fruit, that would be an interesting thing. I suspect not. But yeah, good question. Oh man, I'm so happy. I know he is behind that bush, but I'm very happy that we had that sighting like we did. I can move forward. David, do you want me to move forward? Colette, we're going to move forward, yeah, guys. Just stick with us for a little bit longer if you don't mind. So the wind is in our favour here. So it's blowing from the aardvark to us. I'm actually going to come a little bit further forward. It is quite challenging, believe it or not. And we don't drive off-road for aardvark. I mean, it's, you know, it's a sensitive sighting, and the environment's sensitive as well. So you've got to kind of take two things into account there. I'm just going to get into this gap over here, and then we'll just wait over here. If he pops out, he does. If he doesn't, that's also fine. Yeah, man. How great is that, eh? And this is another species, yeah. So Solo has asked, is an aardvark a social animal? Not at all. It's very, very, very seldom that you'll see them associating with others, except if it's a mother with a youngster, or a male with a female, or males fighting. But those meetings between a male and a female, and or two males, you know, are very, very fleeting. They will not associate. I've had on a number of occasions sitting up on a dune crest where I could see three or yeah, okay, I think I got that question right over there. So, excuse me if I did get it wrong. The question is, are they solo creatures? In other words, are they social? Yes or no? And they're not social at all. So they are very, very solitary animals. Solo animals, they're very solitary. Sorry, I got the question. I was just using different terminology there. My apologies. But I've had on a couple of occasions sitting on a dune crest where you're looking over, I could see 3 or 4 different aardvark from where I was sitting, but not close together. Yeah, using binoculars, there's one like 800 meters down there. There's another one close by to you, a couple hundred meters away, another one. So there he's out in the open again. This just looks like a mobile termite mounder. This is fantastic. What a setting. Sheesh. Like, yeah, African wildcat the other day, the lions yesterday, aardvark now, and just, it's so good as always having you join us on these drives. Yeah. It's a real privilege for me, I must say. So thank you to all of you out there that enable me to do this kind of thing. Because otherwise I'll just have to talk to Davy the whole time, and you know, that would just drive him nuts. So Ali has asked the good question, why do the birds follow the aardvark? So Ali, these birds are insectivorous. Well, not actually, they not just insectivorous. They'll go for frogs, centipedes, spiders, termites, and you name it, they'll, whatever they can catch, they will eat. But of course, if you can follow something that moves that amount of sand, it is unearthing a whole lot of insects and termites and ants as he's moving. Or just follow him around. It saves you a lot of trouble. So they're actually capitalizing on the work that the aardvark is doing to, I don't want to say get a free meal, but to get an easy meal. And there's a lot of people out there that kind of do that, so, you know. Oh, I'm so happy we got this. Yes, and he's so chilled. Okay, when I say he's chilled now, he's like, well, that's 270 yards from us. Yeah, it's about 270 yards, and 271.6890 yards from us. But he's super relaxed, and unfortunately the road actually angles away from where he is now. So if we move the vehicle, we'll be putting more and more distance between him and us. So I'm pretty content just to sit here and wait. And you don't only, we're talking about ant-eating chats following them, you don't only get ant-eating chats, you get a number of different birds. I've seen yellow-billed hornbills following them, I've seen crimson-breasted shrikes, white-browed sparrow weavers, wattle starlings, Cape glossy starlings, Kalahari scrub robins. So you actually get a range of species that will follow them, but very typically it is the ant-eating chats. And coming back to the Shelby family that we've been following, the shell ducks, and you're looking at this creature here, and just how, I'll link a couple of things here, because you've got the shell ducks, you've got the aardvark, and you've got the grass cover and the apex predators. You take out the apex predators, you get overgrazing, your grass cover goes down, you get less termites and ants means less aardvark, potentially no aardvark, and no spring hares, which are also dependent on the grass cover. No spring hares, no aardvark, no shell ducks. No shell ducks, there's no food at dams for certain things that live there. The ripple effect is immense, and that comes back to the key role of apex predators in driving the health of these systems. How was that for an ecology lesson in about 45 seconds? Everything is connected, every single thing. You can pick anything out here and you'll find a connection between that and something else. It might be like a long chain, you might be a number of links to it, but you will find a connection in every single thing, in every single environment that you are operating in. Somehow, there will be some link somewhere. It may be incredibly obscure, but it's there. And that's why it is so critically important that ecosystems are maintained with all their components in it, not parts of, a vehicle with an engine with the carburetor missing, it doesn't work, An office, a fully equipped office, but you take all the paper out the printer, great, no paper, but then your printer doesn't work. So you can't have an ecosystem with a whole pile of components missing, and that's why it's so important that these systems are conserved the way they are. Hey, what an afternoon, eh? And there's a hartebeest out here on the right, just lying down. You see how relaxed he is? Just... MJG is just asked how many, I think, tons of ants can they consume in a season? I will get back to you on that figure. I must just double check with our aardvark researcher, Nora, exactly how many they eat in a night. That number slipped my mind, but I'm sure we can figure it out. You see the hartebeest lying here in this hollow right here. It's nice and relaxed on the ground there. Oh. There we go. You see the hartebeest? That's a hartebeest bull. There you go. Sleeping very peacefully, like that sable was the other day. Man, what an afternoon. Hey? Could be worse. Hey? Yes, I'm so happy.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Well, what an amazing sighting seeing an aardvark, and we were actually viewing some wildebeest, but then we turned around and we were greeted with this beautiful scene behind us, and that's what you can see at the moment. we have this beautiful moon coming up, and you can see the blue and purple and orange color of the sky there, and that is because the Indian Ocean is actually on that side, and we are just enjoying this view for now, and we just want to see what's going to happen on this floodplain, because we're hanging around here. We had some lions vocalizing in this area earlier today, and we came back to the spot because it's so beautiful, but we have been tracking for quite a while. But how beautiful is that? And Marcel and I were just talking now, and we think it might actually be full moon tomorrow, because the sun was just about to go down when the moon came up, and tomorrow morning or tomorrow night, as the sun sets, the moon should come up, and then that means that we have full moon. So not just yet full moon, but nonetheless a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scene. And how beautiful is this grassland here as well. So not a bad way to end the day, having a view like this. And there's actually a large herd of buffalo that's slowly moving through the grassland far in the distance, just below the moon, but it's just little black dots. That's how far we are from them. You can just see them far in the distance. And that moon is nice and orange as well, and I bet tomorrow's moon is going to be even more spectacular, and we'll definitely be out to go and keep an eye on that as well. You can see a few bats also coming over and everything, and all the wildebeests here behind us and the buffalo and everything is now moving to these open areas. You can imagine it's a nice open area to keep an eye out for maybe predators or anything like that. There's actually quite a chilly breeze blowing, but these winter sky colors are so amazing. And the ocean is just about 30 kilometers away as the crow flies, so it just shows you what effect that has on the night sky on Phinda and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. And the sun is completely gone now behind us, and that's very, very quiet, just a bit of a breeze blowing. Krishna, that is quite a difficult one, a caracal, especially in this part of South Africa. On Phinda itself, I think caracals have been quite difficult to find. There's only been 1 or 2 sightings in the last couple of years, and it was only on camera traps. And they are slowly coming back into the area, but because Phinda, the name Phinda actually means the return, and it's the return of the wildlife to the area, because all these areas that we are in now, this conservation area, the Munyana Game Reserve, was actually old farmland. And because it was old farmland, a lot of the smaller predators like caracals and so on, they moved out when farmers got rid of their prey, which is mainly rodents and so on. But slowly but surely we are getting more and more sightings of caracals, and maybe even a cervet or something like that. A serval, sorry. But I think for now what we're going to do is I am going to keep on driving around, see if we can maybe find those lions that have been vocalizing. But we'll see if we can maybe find them before it gets too dark.
I really hope that Devil is able to find those lions, but look at what this leopard is doing at the moment. So he was looking back. He's now moved on to this termite mound. He might just go and lie down, but I thought maybe early on his sister or mother would have probably come back, because he was staring back the whole time. Sounds like there's some alarm calls from baboons just behind us. So I'm going to try. I just want to hear if you'll be able to hear it. It's very faint. It's quite far in the distance. But maybe you'll be able to hear it. Maybe that's the mother or the sister that's on their way back here. Jacqueline, if we had to compare them, I reckon the cheetah would win just in comparison to that of the leopard. You often see with the cheetah as well, when they do run, they use that long tail as a rudder in order to steer themselves as they are running. With the leopard, on the other hand, has a very long tail, but not as long as a comparison to a cheetah. Well, I might be wrong, but from what I've seen, cheetahs do have quite long tails. And it might slightly be longer than this leopard's. It's such an incredible sunset this afternoon, just a variety of different colors. Shelley, the whiskers play a very important role. And the other day I was reading this article about how especially when leopards move into really dense areas, those whiskers can actually help them to move through denses, because they know that if their whiskers can fit through it, the rest of the body could possibly fit through it. But if they move and the area that they're going to be moving in is too tight, it might make too much noise, and whatever prey they might be hunting could eventually run off from there. But you'll often see if they do move, they'll flare out the whiskers. Now, how true that is, I'm not too sure, but I remember reading up a little bit more about it. And you'll notice in comparison to the animals, especially if you compare a leopard against a lion, the leopard's whiskers are a lot longer in comparison to that of a lion, but you'll notice that the leopards tend to hunt in a more of a denser area in comparison to lions. Not saying that lions won't hunt in a dense area, but the chances are more likely that you're going to find a leopard in a quite an area with a lot of cover, whereas with the lion would be more in an openish area. It looks like something has just caught his attention, because he's just been focusing on that side of the termite mound. Maybe it's a francolin or something walking down the riverbed. As you mentioned earlier, I don't know if it might have been the sister that could be around, because the baboons are alarm calling, more likely to say it's the mother and the sister that's closer to that side. I can hear francolins calling on the other side. And also, he's just picked a nice vantage point for himself. Being on top of this termite mound, he can look down into the drainage line. He can look around what's happening behind or on either side of the drainage line. He's positioned himself pretty well. And also late afternoon, just catching that last little bit of sunlight. Striped horse with leopard, I feel that they probably would not sleep as much as lions. But it also, it depends. If you have a leopard that has made a kill, and it's been feeding off that kill for quite a while, it might be in the tree, it might be on the ground sleeping for quite a majority of the day. Whereas with lions, if they haven't been able to make a kill, if they are being pushed out of the area, the chances are they might move more often. But in general, lions would tend to probably sleep a bit more than leopards. See how he's just grooming himself now, probably just licking that back leg, maybe even his back pad. Just carefully scanning around, seeing if there's anything else in the area. Have a look at that beautiful pattern now. We often talk about rosettes and talk about spots, like with the cheetah it has the spots, and then with leopard the rosettes. But you see the difference. With cheetah you just have these single spots scattered across the body. With the leopard it looks like a couple of spots that are basically fused, and in the middle there's a little patch of brown rustic color. Mojo, I do think leopards have a very strong immune system. I think a lot stronger than we have. Because you can imagine with them, the areas they do move, like the conditions that they have to face every day, the type of water that they have to drink. I mean, sometimes it's not the cleanest, and they're able to deal with that. So I would say definitely a very strong immune system, especially if we had to compare it against ours. Look at the sun setting in the back. You'll just notice quite a lot of purple and pink and a little bit of white and a slight tinge of yellow. Just such an amazing scene. What an incredible afternoon to be watching this leopard on top of this termite mound.
So we've got another incredible view here. Have you ever looked at the moon this close that you could see every crater and every dark patch? That's amazing. So we just were coming around the corner, we were actually trying to find some hyenas, and then Seb just noticed the moon and said, Mike, that's what we've got to get on the camera. That is amazing. And I agree completely. Look at that beautiful round orb in the sky. It's just rising above the horizon now. Amazing. Look at, you can actually see the crater on the side there where you can see all the debris from an asteroid that must have hit it at some sort, a meteorite. Wow. I've never looked at the moon this closely before, to be honest. It's so... I wonder if there's a supermoon or something tonight. It just looks massive and clear and bright. And, you know, there's still a bit of ambient light in the sky. I know you can't see it. The screen looks very dark for you, but we've adjusted it slightly. But even with our naked eyes, we can look at that moon, and it's amazing what you can see, the detail. Striped horse... Does the moon affect the animals in any way? Absolutely it does. The bright moon like this is actually the moon rising now, and it will affect the animals. It's going to be very bright tonight, which means many of the herbivores will feel much more safe because they can see better with the bright moonlight. They'll continue feeding and moving around. Maybe not the small antelopes, but the larger things like buffaloes and rhinos and elephants. They will feed, even giraffes, the whole night as long as it's bright like this. And predators like lions and leopards, which really rely on complete darkness or the disruption of those herbivores' senses, they'll be much less active, generally speaking, on these very, very moonlit nights because they want to be able to sneak up to animals without them spotting them at all. So the moon will definitely cause predators to probably be more patrolling territory and less oh, the baby hyenas have just joined us. They've come to look at the moon as well. These are the hyenas we were looking at a moment ago, and they're just to the right of us. They're actually approaching our vehicle. That's amazing. Just over here. All spotted, Seb. So we were on our way to look at these. Oh, there's a leopard coming. Quickly go to that.
We've got another leopard. I don't know who it is yet, everybody. Underneath the full moon, female leopard right outside the hyena den. Now, Theo's going to work some magic here so you all get views because I don't know who this is. Seems to be quite skittish, heading straight for the hyena den, but luckily we know that the hyena den is not active. Okay, here we go. Let's get views. Who is this? Male, Who are you? Skittish. I wonder if this is Mowati. Apologies, it's a male leopard heading towards Weaver's Nest from the Misikaya, if anyone's interested. Okay, we're going to try and catch up. I wonder if this is Mowati. Any of you viewers who know your leopards and you can identify this one, let us know. This is incredible if it's Mowati, but they're very skittish. He's scent marking. Gonna go round this there. Go for it, Theo. Running. This is a skittish male leopard. I really don't know if it's Mowati or not, but I can't think who else it can be. Really, really saggy underbelly. Big dewlap. Okay, we're gonna go forward again, Theo. Let's get into that time of night where I'm losing light. My eyesight is definitely not as good as it used to be. And in this light, it's really tricky. Okay, he's about to cross our path again, just over in the distance. The underbelly looks saggy like Tingana's, but I literally cannot pinpoint. Okay, we're going to catch up. Who this is. Tingana's not skittish. Okay, we're going to have to navigate around all of these obstacles. 2 leopards in one. Okay, that obstacle is not for navigating around. Well done, Lauren. Theo, are you still alive? That's a yes. He is. I can hear the impala. Impala can see him. Okay, if any of you get any ID from that leopard, please let us know. Hashtag Wilder. I'm going to do my best to find it again. Wish me luck.
So these 2 little hyenas stopped for quite a while sniffing at a certain patch, and they were both making funny faces, so I think there was something very smelly over there, but they seem to be moving off now. These are very young hyenas. They've still got very dark legs. I don't think they're much older than about 6 to 8 months, if even that, which means there must be a den close by. We did visit the den earlier, Seb and I, the one that we know of, and it was inactive. So I wonder if these hyenas haven't maybe moved to a new location somewhere closer to where we are now. It'd be interesting to know, because they shouldn't really be venturing too far from the den. I mean, see, these 2 hyenas are very young and they're both together. So they're both, too nervous maybe to leave on their own, but confident enough to go exploring together. And I'm sure they're staying within earshot of Mum somewhere here in this area. It's getting quite difficult to follow them because they're going a bit off the road now. So we'll try and see if we can go forward a little bit, just to see if we can get one last view of them before they disappear. But how awesome was that? Hey, we saw this great moonrise, and then these 2 little hyena cubs came and joined us. That's quite unusual. They're obviously getting quite used to our presence, because they didn't mind us being there at all. They really didn't care. I couldn't see what they were looking at. It must be a scent, maybe a pasting. I'll go and have a look in a moment. Right, so we'll have one last look at them, and then probably when you guys go, I'm going to go and check out what that was that they were smelling. I think it was probably an anal pasting of some sort. Bye-bye, hyenas.
Beautiful moon. From the way distance, by just zooming in there through these branches, able to see behind it. So that bush, how if you actually focus on that, you're able to see how it moves, and which is a really incredible thing to see. So while we've been trying to look around for these animal around here, so we found it's very quiet. So I thought, stopping with the, having a look at the moon, it's so great as well. So this is one of the signs that it's going to be very bright night tonight. Thanks so much, Susan, for the comment. So yeah, this is one of the interesting things about the bush. It's not, I know it's a lot of things to have a look at, that it's a lot of things to see, but depending on which time, sometimes begin with the moon now, then you're able to now judge, and you're able to now know that, all the day animals, diurnal animals, I would call that, right? So they would be now given a chance, which, most guys, they don't really shine at the midnight. But if you had a chance of finding midnight with a full moon, then of course it's good to stop and have a look at them with their naturally bright, which is come from the moon. So yeah, it's incredible things to see, since it's going to be bright sky tonight. This is where now animals like palas or kudus, then they will be having a good time, talking about good time just for their own safety. Able to scan around them, look around them, who's coming, who's not coming. With a pitch dark sky, they still try, look around, but then they have to battle to able to focus enough, see what is coming for them. And that what gives a lot of chance to the predators to hunt, get close to them, because it's dark. Similar when it's too much lightning and windy, cloud, pouring rain. So, and the prey species won't like that. That's where you mainly find them grouping together, since that they don't trust nothing. Beautiful. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful sky, and just by looking at the color of the landscape where the moon just rises, since it's a full moon, and it just shows us that it's going to be a very beautiful sky. We were talking about how fast it goes, we're looking at that moon just in that horizontal, between these two, fog, branches in that. It's called marula trees, but you see how far it goes right to the top, which in the next maybe 2-3 minutes is going to be right above that tree. So it's actually traveling fast.
So, everyone, this is what it's about, and this is a spot that I really have been wanting to bring you to for the past 10 weeks or so, and it is one of my favorite spots for bringing people to when I actually have guests at Tswalu. This dune crest it's a really high dune crest, and it overlooks the sweeping expanse of the southern Kalahari that we're in over here. And just look at that. It is absolutely incredible. And as far as I can see, that all falls within the reserve. So it is a vast landscape, and it really makes us work for our sightings. But we are gifted with these incredible things, the wildcats, the aardvark, you name it. It just keeps on delivering. And it's just such an incredible privilege to be out here, and especially at this time of day. We've got this stunningly beautiful sunset. It's probably go down in about 12 minutes, 13 minutes, against this backdrop of the Koronaberg Hills. I mean, it just, it doesn't quite get better than this. There would be one or two things, but that would make it. But wow. And the whole thing about these landscapes is that just to be able to come out and explore them is part of the adventure. It's not that you have to go and see like that Kempsbuck standing over there, or the aardvark that we've just seen. It's about the unknown. It's about not knowing, well, a termite, aardvark eats X amount per day. And by the way, I have been well informed an aardvark eats up to 50,000 termites a night. So thank you very, very much for that. That is much appreciated. And so it's about the stuff that we don't know. For me, it's about the stuff that we don't know about these landscapes is where the real gold is. Because that just highlights, and there's a roan bull there as well. It just highlights how much we've still got to learn about these environments, because how do we become custodians of this land if we don't even understand the land? And that's the whole thing. That's why I was talking earlier about making sure all the component parts are still inside these systems. Jacqueline says these colors are breathtaking and it's a beautiful area of the world. It is sublime, and I think sublime doesn't even do it justice. I mean, this is just unbelievable on so many levels. It really makes you want to wax lyrical about it, but I'm afraid I'm very much the wrong person to do that. So I think we just let the landscape speak for itself. And these dune crests are also a very good place to actually scan for things like aardvark. And as always, I know I keep saying it, but it's just the way I feel. It is truly a privilege to be able to have all of you watching us, doing this, and joining us. Not watching us, but actually joining us. You guys are out there, you're supporting, you are participating, and that is for me, is such a privilege to be able to share that. So just keep doing it is all I can say. And, keep asking your questions. Doesn't matter how challenging they are, but ask them. Have a safe evening. I can't wait to see you all tomorrow, and we'll see you in the morning.